Hey, what's going on, guys? In this quick video, we'll be looking over a master grade that I've wanted for years, and finally I've got my hands on it. The master grade G Gundam Hyper Mode. Yeah, being a huge fan of G Gundam, I'd wanted this kit for at least a decade at this point. Now, after over 20 years, for seemingly no reason at all, Bandai decided to give this gold-plated early 2000s MG a re-release. After all that waiting, I'm really looking forward to seeing if this kit still holds up. Quick note before we actually dig in here though. This review is going to be a bit more casual than usual, as I already reviewed the original master grade G Gundam. While it's definitely an older video of mine, I do recommend checking it out if you're thinking about getting that standard version. This review is going to be more so about how this gold plating affects the base kit. Alright, now let's dig into this master grade G Gundam Hyper Mode, by first looking at its build. / appearance, I mean. Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about this build without also talking about this gold finish too. So, anyway, as expected, this Hyper Mode G Gundam is the same build as the original master grade. It uses the exact same pieces on the exact same runners, just now plated in a reflective gold. You will notice though that this plating doesn't extend to the inner frame. Instead, we get more of a glossy brown plastic. It looks a little gross, but I think it's kind of necessary here. These G Gundam kits are made for posing, and I'm willing to bet the friction from that posing would scratch or scuff up whatever finish is applied to this inner frame. It's probably for the best that this part of the build is kept to standard plastic. Still, if you want a flashier color, because this inner frame is just regular old plastic, you can paint it up no problem. On to the real showstopper here though, this gold-plated armor. Man, what's there to even say here? It just looks incredible, arguably one of the best gold coatings I've seen in old school Gunpla. It has such a strong mirror finish to it that you can actually see yourself in the armor. Of course, my camera isn't exactly doing it justice, but still, this kit is just blindingly radiant, and I had a ton of fun getting footage for this review. Also, you've probably already noticed all the dust and fingerprints on this kit. Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable on this mirror finish. I actually built this kit while wearing gloves to try and minimize the fingerprints, but there was just no way. I will say though, it's nowhere near as bad in person. It just looks rough in this video because it's in 4K and I'm using a macro lens. While this kit is definitely a fingerprint magnet, it doesn't look anywhere near as grimy in real life. Anyway, Bandai also went above and beyond here and provided two different shades of gold for the armor. There's a deeper gold for what was red and blue pieces, and a lighter gold used for the white and yellow pieces. It looks amazing, as it adds some real definition to each piece. Now, as much as I love this gold, you already know there's a huge downside to building a kit like this. Yep, the nubs on this kit are pretty terrible. There's of course no undergating here, and with the original kit already not having the best nub placement, you definitely have your work cut out for you here. Each nub leaves a pretty horrific black spot, and that's if you're really on target with your nub removal. If you let up for even a moment, then you might catch some of the gold coating and chip it off. It actually happened to me a few times, but my worst mistake was when my blade accidentally skipped and scraped off some of the gold coating on the outside of the thigh. While the coating does seem fine for general handling, anything sharp will have it scrape off, so you really have to be careful when working with this armor. Still, this reflective finish is so eye-catching that I really don't notice all the nubs. Sure, if you look for them, they'll pop right out at you, but the whole picture here has so much going on with these different shades of gold that the nubs are kind of irrelevant. It's honestly pretty easy to just tune them out. Now, despite this gold coating exacerbating the original's nub issues, it also manages to completely bypass one of that kit's most glaring flaws. There's no longer any need to paint up the details on this kit. If you've seen the review for the original G Gundam, you'll probably remember one of the biggest issues with that kit's build is the additional black detailing needed to get him anime accurate. Even though he does come with a few stickers, you were still required to paint these vents on the feet, these on the knee, these on the shoulders, and so on. Basically, there was a ton of extra detailing needed on your part, and unfortunately, it was made more difficult than need be because Bandai didn't provide solid guidelines or hard edges for most of it. You kind of just had to freehand a lot of the smaller details. However, with this gold coating, there's no need for any additional black painting. Not only is the paint probably not going to stick on this smooth finish, but it'll be completely drowned out by the glare of this gold. There isn't even a need to panel line this kit, as everything gets lost in this mirror finish. Bandai does provide some stickers you could use for the lines on the shoulders and front skirts, but there's really no point in using them. This kit shines just as much without black details as it would with them. If you do want some more going on here though, Bandai also provides some nice decals for you. There's some great logos and kanji stickers you could use to personalize your build. However, they're all peel and stick, so they're more than likely going to have a thick film around each one. Still, they're here if you want to give them a shot, or maybe just hold on to them in case you ever wanted to make a custom G Gundam build. And that about does it for the build, / appearance I mean. While this gold plating does make nub removal more difficult, the upside is that there's no need for the original's annoying detailing. Alright, now that we've got him built, let's briefly go over this kit's articulation. Just like the other G Gundam kits, the Master Grade God Gundam is a joy to pose. This innovative 2001 inner frame really does hold up, providing some very solid articulation. Plus, it uses screws in just about every joint, so not only can he hit cool poses, but he can hold them forever. That's why I was a little surprised how much I didn't enjoy posing this hyper mode version. Don't get me wrong here, this kit has some amazing articulation, being built on that same sturdy inner frame. But this gold plating makes posing so nerve-wracking. Many of these plated pieces just don't sit right on the armor, no doubt caused by the added bulk from this plating. This chest section is a great example, specifically this yellow section on the chest hatch. You'll notice on the original kit, there's not much of a gap between this blue piece and this yellow section that snaps over top. On the plated version though, this gap is much wider. These pieces just don't click together like you'd expect, you know? As much as I'd love to try and fix this, these armor pieces feel so much more brittle than standard plastic. I can't help but feel that using too much force would cause the pieces to snap or the plating to warp. Like with these wings on the back. They're really difficult to rotate, no doubt due to the plating making the joint tighter, and yet they feel so weak that if I were to force them, they'd probably snap in half. Stack on not wanting to cause any scratches or damage to this reflective finish, and this G Gundam kit just isn't that fun to pose. Regardless, if you have the courage for it, he can hit just about any pose you'd like. I mean, look at this. An early 2000s Master Grade pulling off a one-legged pose. That's just unheard of. These legs specifically have some amazing articulation, with very solid ball joints on the foot, a 135-degree bend from the knee, and even some decent old-school ball joints for the hips. Similarly to other G Gundam kits, this kit also uses rubber inserts for the feet. They provide a ton of extra grip, allowing him to hold any ground pose you could throw at him. I'm also a huge fan of how they come in their own goldish color. That's some great attention to detail on Bandai's part. Also, Bandai still includes the extra V-fin made of rubber. This is fantastic, as the plated V-fin is incredibly brittle. So if you're nervous about it, you could always swap in this rubber version instead. Anyway, back to this articulation. The arms are just as solid as the legs, having a fantastic 45-degree pop out from the shoulder, a very decent 135-degree elbow bend, and you can even rotate the gauntlets around to really nail that God finger pose. Speaking of that God finger pose, he comes with 2 dedicated hands for it. Both are in a clear orange and look amazing in action. This orange is super bright, helping these hands to really stand out, even amongst all this gold. His other set of hands come in the same rubber used for the feet. He comes with 3 sets of hands, a closed fist, a dedicated beam saber hold, and a really unique set for recreating his iconic arms crossed pose. This kit's articulation is just as amazing as the original kit. It really is crazy that a kit this old can hit so many great poses. However, the gold plating of this armor kinda spoils it. This may be one of those kits that you put into a really cool pose, then just never touch it again. Lastly, let's take a look over these gimmicks. Being a mobile fighter, the God Gundam doesn't really have the largest arsenal, and this kit kind of reflects that. The only additional weapons you get are these beam sabers. Thankfully, they're really well implemented. They come in this standout neon green, and of course, the handles are plated gold. Also, with this great, albeit nerve-wracking, articulation, you can score some solid beam saber poses here. These are all around a great addition, and I'm glad Bandai kept them with this hyper mode version. Other than that, Bandai did throw in a few extras with this master grade. My favorite being this unique statue of Domon, the G Gundam's pilot. If I remember correctly, the original kit had one that was more skin-toned, but this one comes in a vibrant orange. He looks amazing, with not only the sculpt being pretty well done, but this transparent orange really amping up the energy of his pose. He's also quite a bit larger than the usual pilot statue, being around 3 inches tall. I'm definitely going to display him in front of the Gundam. Next up, he comes with a standard detachable core fighter, or in this case, a core lander. While I would never display it like this, as I think it looks better as part of the Gundam, there is something kinda cool about a golden core lander though, right? As far as the transformation goes, it's all pretty straightforward. However, this plating does make a few sections a bit more difficult due to the added bulk and fragility. Specifically in moving the arm gauntlets forward, opening up this hatch on the chest, and like I mentioned before, rotating these wings on the core lander. I really felt like I had to go slow when transforming this God Gundam, or I'd risk snapping something. All that worrying is worth it though, as this hyper mode looks fantastic. I really can't think of any reason to transform this kit back, as this gold just screams hyper mode anyway, you know? And that about does it for the gimmicks. While there isn't a whole lot here, what you do get works pretty well. Just make sure you go slow when you transform this kit. Alright, now let's wrap all this up here. After over a decade of wanting this kit, I finally have it. And what really stood out to me were all the trade-offs required to get this kit plated. The build got rid of all that annoying detailing from the original kit, but now we have a ton of really difficult to deal with nubs. Thankfully, they aren't super noticeable, and this kit's radiant gold more than makes up for it, with an absolutely amazing appearance. For articulation, he has that same solid inner frame, but the gold-plated armor feels so brittle. After you find a pose you like, you probably never want to pose him again. Still, he could hit just about any pose you could want. And lastly, the gimmicks are really sparse here. But then again, what more could you ask for from a God Gundam kit, right? All said and done, despite all the trade-offs, I really enjoyed this kit. Sure, it has some noticeable flaws that make it so I can't really recommend this to a casual fan. But there's so much great with this kit that dedicated G Gundam fans will still find a lot to like here. Seeing as how I'm one of those G Gundam fans, this kit more than lived up to the wait. Now I just gotta track down the hyper mode version of the Master Gundam. Hopefully that won't take me another decade. Anyway, thanks for watching, and feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RedHeadphones6, or subscribe to this channel for more Gundam reviews. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.